All right, everyone, welcome back into another Fantasy Golf video. Going to be breaking down the Texas Children's Houston Open. Now, for Fantasy Golf purposes, this is a pretty interesting week because we have Scotty in the field. Scotty has not been playing well recently, but he is clearly the top player in the field by far, and he's priced that way. His odds are priced that way as well. And so that's kind of the difficult part about this week, but also the other difficult part about this week is that after that, we have some educated dart throws that we can make. And then really after that, it falls off. So this is a very unique week in which we're really not getting that many great plays. Do think we have a couple straightforward options, but then from there, we're going to have a lot of variance this week, which could end up being a good thing, could end up being a bad thing. So let's go ahead and break down this tournament. So yeah, guys, this is definitely one of those tournaments where just given the caliber of golfer that we have in the field, it is going to be more difficult to predict. We have a lot of golfers that do have good course history and typically do tend to play this course well, but a lot of those golfers are not in good recent form. And some of the golfers that are in good recent form aren't necessarily the best at fit. So the weird thing about the Florida swing that we were just in is that a lot of the players that are the top plays are the top plays for like basically every tournament because all the courses tend to play about the same in regards to which key stats you're going to look at for predictability. Now we're in the Texas swing, and that does tend to shift. Like this is a tournament where we actually tend to see strokes gained around the green and strokes gained putting typically matter a little bit more than the average tournament. And just naturally, that's going to create some variance there as well. So it's definitely a unique week. And as I mentioned at the top of the video, could be a week where it's difficult to predict, which would mean good things if we end up hitting it correctly. But if we don't, then it could end up being a bad week. So it's very unique in that regard. And so, guys, let's just take a peek at the course history. So Alejandro Tosti is one of the players that has the top course history. Then Scotty Scheffler. I mean, he has been a stud at this course. Jaeger, Mackenzie Hughes, Wyndham Clark, 4 straight made cuts. Ben Griffin, okay, pretty good golfer here. Aaron Wise, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Eric Cole, Harry Hall, Harris English, very interesting there. Tom Hoagie, Davis Thompson, Davis Riley. So a lot of golfers that are at least playing in this event have played it a bunch, which we do like to see. I do think it's kind of an interesting thing to call out here as well. Which golfers have local ties here? Say Tagala, who coming in off of a terrible round 2 there. I think it was like +8, just terrible there. Then we have Michael Brennan. Chandler Phillips, kind of interesting, coming in off of a 55th place finish, 2 straight made cuts here. Maybe someone you could look at as a deep value. Jonathan Vegas, 2 out of 3 made cuts here. Mark Hubbard, I mean, he hasn't been playing well recently. With this being a longer track, we're probably not looking at him as well, but kind of interesting to call out. We do have some other Texas guys here as well that we could look at for possible local ties, and I think that's kind of why they tend to play this event. But just an interesting thing to look at, guys. Let's go ahead and take a peek at the golfers that are going to be the best stat fits here. So Sam Burns going to be popping up in there, guys. We got Brooks Koepka, Michael Thorbjornsen, interesting name there. Matt McCarty, Tom Kim, Kevin Roy, interesting name there. Then you also have Scotty Scheffler. So Scotty Scheffler, again, he's kind of been struggling here recently, so I guess that's not too big of a shock, but he is still going to be kind of the player we want to be going out of our way to target. And then we also have Stefan Jaeger there, who I do think is going to be an interesting click here. Now, when we jump into the golfers that have the best recent form, Brooks Koepka. Brooks freaking Koepka, guys. Now, yes, some of this dates back to some previous seasons, but over his last 3 starts now, 18th, 13th, and 9th. So already pretty ugly. I mean, literally, guys, this really sums up the tournament. Scotty Scheffler, about 5th best in the field. Now, he's been 70 straight made cuts. I mean, like kind of, oh, well, like if the worst we're going to get out of him is a top 25 finish, I think we would almost take that this week, even at his egregiously high price tag because of how difficult it is going to be to predict. But we got Harris English coming in off of a miscut, already ugly there. Marco Pang there, who, you know, good finish. His most recent event and then miscut, don't love that. Kurt Kitayama, kind of same stuff there. Ricky Fowler, been a little bit hit or miss as well. And so that is just the field that we have this week, which again, that's going to create some of the variance this week. And so I do think this could also be a week in which we are trying to look at some of the course specials. With it being a Texas track, there actually is a lot of unique course characteristics here. And so this is definitely going to be someone I'm looking at a little bit more. So combining all those unique course characteristics into one data point, we got Scotty Scheffler, Sam Burns, Harry Hall, Ben Griffin, Kurt Kitayama, Chris Goddard. And this is kind of a way of kind of noticing why some of the golfers that typically play well at this event have played well at it. But let's go ahead and jump on into the high tiers here, guys. High tier plays here, guys. And so for me, I mean, yeah, obviously Scotty's going to be the top player on the board this week. If you can afford to fit him into your builds, you should be doing that. He ranks top 5 or better in all the key metrics that we look at. Again, just a phenomenal play. Ming-Woo Lee is going to be an interesting play here, where not the best staff at 42nd in the field, but top 10 specialist. Winner of this event last year, which obviously you like. And overall form is pretty solid. Top 8 in the field, 7 straight make cuts for him, including 2 recent top 10 finishes. So he's fine. Chris Goddard form's been off a little bit, but you would expect him to play well at a track like this. 6th best staff in the field. Sam Burns, top 10 specialist, best staff in the field, 4th best form. I think I like Sam Burns as an outright bet, especially if we're kind of betting on Scotty not to win. If you remember a few years ago when these two played each other in what used to be the bracket tournament, Sam Burns ended up winning, played really well in Texas there. And so we're looking at some of his outright numbers, 28-1, 31 on Bet Online. I feel like those are pretty good numbers for him. And so if you're not betting on Scotty, to be able to get a very viable option at 30-1 feels pretty darn good. I can make that same excuse here for Brooks Koepka, who I do view as someone we should be placing an outright bet on him. It does feel like he is going to win sometime soon. I typically don't like to place bets off of feels for golfers, but he's also been playing well, and he's a good staff fit. And so this is kind of all coming together for him. Now, he's a player that hasn't played this course, obviously, much in the last 4 years. And when he did, he missed the cut. So we don't like that. But overall, looking pretty darn good. 2nd best staff in the field, best form, arguably. Obviously, that's due to how you measure it. We do put a lot of stock into the most recent event, but also the make cut streak. And we can see plenty of decent starts here. The only bad one was the Waste Management Phoenix Open, but since then, really good stuff. So he's very appealing to me. And then from there, guys, I don't necessarily love the rest of these plays here. I feel like they're all a little bit too priced up. We can jump down into kind of the mid-tier, but we're going to start with Adam Scott, who I do think is appealing, but I also think he's very risky. Harris English, basically the same thing. Coming in off of a bad week, very good course history. I do like him. Ben Griffin has been struggling a bunch recently. Not egregiously bad, and you wouldn't be able to expect him to make the cut, but I might just jump down to someone like Michael Thorbjornsen, who 39th place finish at this event last year, 3rd best staff in the field, top 30 or better in all the key stats that we're looking at, 22nd and 33rd place finishes recently. And he's someone where if we're looking to place an outright bet, 35-1 feels like a pretty darn good number. And for DFS purposes, I do think that he can be a starting point as well. A starting point, guys, at 8.6. That's the weird week that we have. From there, Harry Hall is fine. He's been a little bit hit or miss, but does have that very good course history that we like to see, and has gotten better results here each and every year. So 39th, 28th, and 18th. And so he's someone I'm perfectly fine getting to. And then Ryan Gerard as well, guys. Been on, a pretty good streak recently of good golf. He ranks top 25 or better in all the key metrics that we're looking at. He's someone that I could toy around with, Jason outright bet with as well. 45-1 does feel like a pretty good number for him. Form has been overall pretty darn solid. The 51st at the API we don't like, but other than that, pretty good results. And so given the caliber of this field, you would expect him to have a good result here. It's also a top 25 staff fit. The one concern, really staff fit wise, is going to be total driving. Okay, so we don't like that. But overall, decent staff fit. 5th in the field in effective birdie to bogey ratio. So we do like that. Could be a little bit better stroke gain around the green, stroke gain putting, but do really love the fact that he had a top 10 finish at this event, and that he's top 20 in terms of specialist rank. From there, I could make a case for Wyndham Clark. I could make a case for Keith Mitchell. I think they're both fine. Let's just jump down into the lower tier here. So in the low tier, it is tough to ignore the form that Alex Smalley has been in. 2 good results at this tournament and 2 pretty poor results at this tournament. Overall, I do think he's going to be a fine option for you. I view him more as a shoulder shrug play, where at his price tag, if you end up on him, I'm kind of comfortable ending up on him. That's literally going to be the feeling that you're going to have, though, this week, is that you're not necessarily going to love a lot of the plays that you're on, but you just shrug your shoulders and move on. Jaeger's an interesting golfer here as well, guys, where he has 2 top 10 finishes over his past 7 starts. Other than that, they've been terrible. And so he's someone where, given the fact that he has played this course well in the past as well, former winner, 11th and 9th place finish over the last 4 years, I think it's kind of worth potentially chasing a longer number. 80-1 feels pretty good. Maybe even a top 10 at about 7-1. Those are some pretty good lines there for him. When he shows up, he does play well. Maybe someone you could look at as like a live bet as well, just because you're going to know whether or not he's playing well pretty early there. But that's literally going to be a lot of the plays here in this range. A lot of risk reward. Tony Finau, guys. Tony Finau has been playing better recently. He's also a former winner of this event and then since has went second, 32nd. Overall, you would expect him to make the cut. Davis Thompson's popping up in there with his good course history, and he's a good stat fit overall. Really, data-wise, nothing like terrible about him. That's why he's going to grade out pretty darn well. One of the plays that we were on a decent amount last week, and it did seem like early on that week he was going to go out and have a good week. Did not end up doing that. 46th place finish for him, but still solid enough. Fell kind of apart throughout the weekend, which maybe that's a thing for him, but maybe it's just played a little bit too many events. So I'm kind of passing up on Ricky Castillo this week. Gary Woodland, another player that just like across the board data-wise does look pretty appealing, especially given his good course history. 2nd, 21st, 9th, and then missed cut. 14th place finish in his most recent event. So recent form, kind of lackluster, but course history makes up for it. And given the fact that his most recent event was a top 20 finish, somewhat appealing still. Jordan L. Smith, not terrible form, top 12 in the field. Don't mind him. Ryan Fox is the most difficult golfer this week because obviously he was clearly too cheap at the Players' Championship. Okay, he was someone that we should be going out of our way to target. Unfortunately, he withdrew after a lineup lock. He withdrew from kidney stones that apparently he was feeling on Tuesday. We did not get the news until Thursday. Okay, and so I still do not understand why golfers cannot simply, on the Friday in which they're submitting whether or not they're going to play in that tournament, when they're doing that, simply add on another characteristic of that where they have to report whether or not they're injured. And then if an injury pops up throughout the week, they have to record that. It's really not hard. Every other sport does that, especially sports that are backed by gambling companies, which the PGA Tour definitely is. It's not that hard. We should know what his status is this week. Like, is that hindering him at all? It's a self-report. Okay, golf is a sport that's centered around honesty. And so it's not a big ask either. It takes maybe 2 minutes for a golfer to send a text to a certain person on the PGA Tour that would then post that. It's a simple fix. But that being said, he would clearly be one of the best options, guys, this week. 80-1 feels like a pretty good number. 15th place finish at this event last year. Recent form has obviously been phenomenal. 5 straight top 25 or better finishes. Maybe not the best stat fit. That's a slight concern. But given the fact that he's 80-1, I love that. And given the fact that he's 7.4 on DraftKings, he feels like a very safe option for us there as well. So he's someone I'm going to be going on my way to target DFS-wise. From there are a lot of other players I can make a case for, like John Parry, 9 straight make cuts. I mean, that's tough to ignore. Tom Kim, 10 straight make cuts. That's also very tough to ignore. Kevin Roy getting into the value tier here. I do really like Kevin Roy as a value. 4 straight make cuts for him. Very good stat fit. Should be able to make the cut. Bud Cauley, also someone you would expect to be able to make the cut. And then some like Jimmy Stanger's somewhat popping up to me, guys. Like 3 straight make cuts, all about top 35 or better finishes. Not a terrible stat fit. As price tag, he does feel a little bit too cheap. You'd probably have to fit him into your builds if you're trying to play Scotty. There are going to be some other players that are popping up throughout the week that I'll have on the 9 to 5 Reddit, but let's go ahead and get into the core plays for this week. So core play number 1 for me is going to be Ryan Gerard, just at a cheap price tag where I do feel comfortable getting to him, guys. Not really expecting a lot of massive finishes for a lot of these golfers, but at the same time, he does feel like a safer play at a cheap enough price tag where I do think he could potentially win. From there, we do also get into Michael Thorbjornsen, who again, very good staff in the field, guys. He's made 5 out of 7 cuts this season, 7 out of 9 recently. Only 1 top 10 finish. Don't necessarily love that. But other than that, been a very good play. Course history, top 40 place finish. I think he has a very good chance to end up winning. Okay, and that's really the appeal with him at this price tag, but should be safe enough for us as well. Another player that I didn't mention throughout the video was Patrick Rodgers, guys. So Patrick Rodgers is priced at 7.6. He has went 52nd, 74th, 16th. He's also not the best athlete, only 32nd in the field, 67th best specialist, but just across the board, he's a good enough play who has been playing some good enough golf. 10 straight make cuts for him. I don't think he's someone we want to be looking at outright-wise, but for DFS purposes, he is a play that, to me, makes sense. And he's just too cheap for someone that should be able to give us a make cut, and I'm fine chasing those make cuts. And again, I do really like the idea of getting to Ryan Fox, who I just view as someone that's just too cheap for us this week. Assuming that he's healthy, it's kind of risk reward there because obviously if he's not healthy, we're not going to necessarily love him. And so we got 4 players listed in there right now. This is where the week gets a little different because we are going to be forced to play some plays that are not necessarily locks to outproduce their price tag or even to make the cut. That's where it gets risky. Like Ricky Fowler has been playing some pretty darn good golf lately. I'm fine game to him. That leaves us with 8.6. Then we're stuck with like Keith Mitchell, who again, I'm fine with. wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to target him, but this is kind of the roster construction that's just going to be made this week. So that's my thought for the roster construction right now. Let's go and see what the 9 to 5 lineup builder is spitting out to us. So making 20 lineups, and here we go. We got Sam Burns, Jake Knapp, Højgaard, Jordan L. Smith, Gary Woodland, and Jasper Svensson. From there, it does like Houghton Ling. It does really like Jordan L. Smith, and then you got Harris English, Brooks Koepka. I like Brooks Koepka a decent amount. Sam Burns, I'm perfectly fine getting into as well. If you are paying up, I would probably try to get to those two the most. And just kind of going back to that lineup we just did, honestly, probably a better path get to Brooks, who I believe he was a part of like the redesigns for this course. If I'm wrong about that, guys, let me know in the comment section. But I believe I read something about that. Ideally, if we could get Burns in there too, but I mean, still not a terrible lineup here. Yeah, I like that one a little bit better. But yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at lineup path wise right now. Let's see the most 6 for 6%, highest 6 for 6%. Jake Knapp, Kirk Kitayama, Shane Lowry, Davis Thompson, Jordan L. Smith, and Gary Woodland. I wouldn't argue that. That's a pretty solid build there as well. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. I appreciate you being here. Make sure to leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you guys have not done so before. Appreciate you being here. If you guys would like access to any of the tools that you saw throughout this video, make sure to head on over to 9to5sports.com. Get access to all those tools for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.